With that, we will move on to the next item of business, and I will ask Vice Chair Olson to preside for the rest of the hearing. Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you, Chair Moran. So members, our last agenda item for this evening is the adoption of the House Budget Resolution for fiscal years 2022 and 2023. So Chair Moran, would you like to move the resolution before the committee?
Yes, Madam Chair. I would like to move adoption of the 2021 Budget Resolution titled Buzz Res 1.
Great. So the resolution is before the committee. Chair Moran, please proceed.
Well, thank you, Madam Chair. Members, our state has weathered many hardships over the last year. Thankfully, our rapidly improving economic picture has put the legislature in a position to help all Minnesotans recover from the pandemic. But recovery cannot be our only goal. The coronavirus has also laid bare the systemic inequities that exist long before most of us even knew what an N95 mask was or logged into our first Zoom call. We cannot settle for simply going back to normal. In our rural communities, lagging access to broadband made it more difficult for Minnesotans to work from home safely. Let me say that again. The broadband made it more difficult for Minnesotans to work from the safety of their home or consult virtually with doctors and therapists. For people with disabilities, their caregivers had to decide whether it was worth risking their own health to continue providing services for a substandard wage. And in communities of color, disproportionately poor health outcomes from COVID were combined with the trauma of George Floyd's death and the ensuing civic unrest that damaged their businesses and neighborhood. For too many Minnesotans, normal was already failing them. COVID-19 just made things worse. So as we emerge from this crisis, I believe we need a budget that accomplishes two things. One, we must prioritize the recovery of those most impacted by the pandemic, including our students, our working families, our small businesses, and our BIPOC communities. Second, we must reimagine how we approach the budget process so that it is centered around the principles of inclusion, equity, and opportunity. I know our finance chairs are committed to both of these priorities, and I also want to thank my colleagues across the aisle for your sincere engagement on these goals. In my time as a legislator, I have learned that if we take the time to truly listen to one another, we often find that our values are more aligned than we realize. So now it's time for action. The resolution before you today is a blueprint to build back better from the COVID-19 pandemic while maintaining a balanced budget. As you will hear from Mr. Marks shortly, our top priorities in this resolution are robust investment in education, health and human services, and economic development. This resolution also acknowledges our improved budget forecast by asking our tax chair to work with a net target of 0. I want to remind members that while these numbers represent the net spending limits, we will abide by this session. It is still up to our chairs and their respective committees to decide what they want to accomplish with those targets. To the extent that members have questions about specifics of what will be included in each of these bills, I encourage them to communicate directly with the appropriate chairs. So at this time, I will ask that Mr. Marks walk through the resolution for the committee, and then I would be happy to stand for questions.
Thank you, Chair Moran. Mr. Marks.
Madam Chair and members, I will first go through the spreadsheet that you were provided that has the various numbers on it, and then link that back to the actual resolution. So if we turn to that spreadsheet, the committees are listed in alphabetical order, the same order as in the resolution. The first column of numbers on the spreadsheet are the numbers from the February forecast. So those are the projections are in the forecast released at the late February. These would be the base level numbers for the various committees, the general fund spending for the various committees. Then the next column is the House numbers as proposed in this resolution for fiscal 22-23. And then finally, the change column. And I would just make a note here that in the fiscal 22-23 column, that includes fiscal 21 changes as well within that number. And that's basically the way this has been done for a number of years, because fiscal 21 changes will change the amount, the balance in fiscal 21 that carries forward into fiscal 22-23, so they have an effect in fiscal 22-23 as well. So then just stepping through the various numbers for agriculture, the House proposal is $138,820,000, which is 138,820,000, which is 11,574,000 higher than the base level. For capital investment, it's 1,653,000. Again, 1,653,823,000. That's 73.6 million higher than the base level. For climate and energy, 29,846,000, 5.5 million higher than the base level. For commerce, 45,024,000. It's 1.3 million higher than the base level. For early childhood, 715,785,000, 50 million higher than the base level. For education, 20,810,033,000, 721.7 million higher than the base level. For environment and natural resources, 372,666,000, 40.675 million higher than the base level. For health and human services, 16,247,833,000, or 323 million higher than the base level. For higher education, 3,526,128,000, or 120 million higher than the base level. For housing, 145,596,000, or 30 million higher than the base level. For industrial education and economic development, 65,868,000, or 60 million higher than the base level. For judiciary, 1,084,191,000, or 49,009 million higher than the base level. For labor, industry, veterans, and military affairs, 245,645,000, or 21,935,000 higher than the base level. And I would just note on this one, when you look at the resolution text, there is a sub-target on that of 227,934,000, designating that portion of the 245 for veterans, the veterans and military affairs programs, the veterans accounts. For public safety, 1,574,034,000, which is 71,069,000 higher than the base level. For state government, 994,663,000, or about 35.5 million higher than the base level. For taxes, 4,164,181,000, which is the same as the base level. I skipped over legacy up there, and sorry about that one. We put that in here because the rule requires all the major finance bills to be listed, but legacy has no general fund money, so that's why it is at zero. Okay, then back here, transportation, 289,164,000, which is 39.6 million higher than the base level. And then workforce and business at 285,322,000, or 56,992,000 higher than the base level. Then there are several items listed under the other bills category here. And traditionally, there are some other bills that don't fit into or are outside of the committee target numbers. The first two items, House File 445, is the SAFE Act, the 35 million there that was in the bill passed out of Ways and Means Committee that is currently on the House floor. House File 1064, the summer programs bill that the House passed today, is 107,382,000. And then there's 10 million set aside for the claims bill and any other bills that may fall in that category. And then the cancellations at the 20 million negative, that's the same as the forecast level. That's the assumption of cancellations that's here. So the net spending number here then in the resolution is 52,521,001,000, and that's $1,863,000,000 higher, $1,863,777,000 higher than the base level. And then I also want to point out in the net spending, the definition of net spending that's used here is the sum of spending minus revenue change. So it means that there could be revenue changes within this number. They have to be netted out against the spending to get to the target level. Finally, at the bottom of the page, some reconciliation to get to a budget balance. The House has some additional changes that are factored in here that are accounted for in the resolution. Adding the tobacco settlement revenue. This is the additional revenue that Commissioner Showalter sent a memo on last Thursday or Friday, I believe, acknowledging an additional settlement on tobacco revenues with money going into the general fund. That's $101,570,000 in the fiscal 21, 22, 23 period. This would transfer $150 million from the budget reserve in here. And then it would also limit the stadium reserve at the $100 million as in the discussion earlier, which results in $100,700,000 staying in the general fund. Those three items add $352,270,000. And then the calculation down below here is just taking numbers basically from the forecast, the forecasted revenue, the carry forward from the previous biennium, the change in the budget reserve of $491 million that's in current law. The change in the stadium reserve is a negative because the stadium reserve is going up before the cap up above that happens under current law. Then the $352 million is added here from the House items in the category above. And then this balances out to leave balances out for a projected balance of $59,289,000. So that, Madam Chair, members, is the spreadsheet. Turning to the budget resolution, the item labeled BUDRES 01. This is the text of the resolution, which reflects the numbers that I just reviewed. Lines 1 through 4 of the total spending and acknowledging the stadium reserve amount. Lines 1.7, 1.8, the budget reserve, the cash flow amounts. And then lines 1.9 through 2.9 would be the targets or the limits for each individual committee, as I mentioned them in the on the spreadsheet. The language that Representative Hansen mentioned earlier on lines 2.10 through, and well, that language in the next section, 2.10 through 2.12 establishes the limit for the coronavirus, or I'm sorry, for the federal, the federal funds received under the state recovery portion of Public Law 117-2 or the American Rescue Plan, and sets the target at 0 at this point. And then lines 213 through 216 sets a target for the Coronavirus Relief Fund. This is the fund that had been discussed a lot in special sessions. And this allocates, there's currently a balance projected in that fund of $23.59 million that had basically all been spent. This money comes from cancellations from the appropriations that had been made previously. They were all set to cancel on December 20th. And then it also, there are some insurance settlements and potentially some FEMA reimbursements coming into that fund yet, but the balance there is all allocated to Health and Human Services with the assumption that they will use it to refinance some general fund spending within their target. And then the other language links 2.17 and 18 links to the February forecast, and 2.19 through 2.22 deals with if bills are combined or separated. This is standard language that's been in the resolution for quite some time. So, Madam Chair, that's my explanation.
Thank you, Mr. Marks. Chair Moran, any comments before we go on from anything before we go to members?
Yes, Madam Chair. Well, That concludes the presentation of the budget resolution. So once again, if there are questions about what will or would not be funded within each of these targets, I recommend that members speak directly with the appropriate chair. But I'm happy to stand for questions about the resolution itself.
Great. Thank you, Chair Moran. So we're going to go to discussion on the budget resolution. And I know there are 2 amendments posted and we will get to those amendments, but first we'll take questions and comments on the budget resolution. Representative Garofalo.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Representative Moran, or for nonpartisan research, in the summary that we're provided, it shows that there's a charge for the education bill that passed off the House floor today. However, in that bill, it referenced a requirement for the commissioner to leverage federal funds. So there should be no general fund impact. Why is that listed in there?
Chair Marks.
Chair Marks? Has he been promoted?
I said Mr. Marks.
Oh, I thought you said Chair Marks.
Madam Chair and Representative Garofalo, there is direction in that bill to replace the general fund money with federal funds, but we don't know at this point what if that's eligible for federal funds or not. There's many people assume it will be, but until we have the federal guidance, we're not in a position to say yes, it will be. It can be replaced with the federal money.
Representative Garofalo.
Madam Chair, thank you, and Mr. Marks. So in effect, it is a contingent federal appropriation that is currently appropriated through the general fund. Is that correct?
Bill, Mr. Marks.
Madam Chair and Representative Garofalo, yes, it is. The language is there to make it a federal fund appropriation. If when we know it is eligible, then it would become that.
And
Representative Garofalo.
Madam Chair, I'll save my other comments for the amendments and for closing. Thank you.
Further discussion to the budget resolution from members before we take up the amendments. Okay, not seeing that, we'll move to the amendments. So we'll start with the A1. Representative Garofalo, to your amendment.
Actually, Madam Chair, would it be okay if I move A02 first?
Sure, that's fine, Representative Garofalo. So go ahead and move the A2.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move the A02 amendment. I would request a roll call on it, and then let me just explain what this is for people. So under the federal guidance that was the federal law that was passed, one of the portions that are in there is the capital projects portion, and this is federally funded projects, or around federally funded initiatives around capital projects. Right now, those projects are excluded from consideration in this budget resolution. So it would prohibit the Capital Investment Committee from making budget recommendations for this fund. So what this amendment does is it takes that $178.8 million and puts that under the target for the Capital Investment Committee. It does not commit the committee to do anything. It simply states that it gives the opportunity specifically to the Capital Investment Committee to make those recommendations. This is cash, this is not bonding, it's federal requirements. It is purely optional and would allow the legislature to establish a position on these funds. And I would ask for member support.
Is there discussion to the A2? Chair Moran.
Madam Chair, and maybe this would be to Mr. Marks, but can you tell me what the impact of lines 2.10, 2.12 would do with inserting this into that?
Mr. Marks. Madam Chair and Representative Moran, they basically are independent of each other. The 2.10 through 2.12 deals with the state recovery portion of the American Rescue Plan money. This is dealing with the capital projects portion of it. So they're I think it's fair to say they're independent of each other.
Okay, Madam Chair, just for clarity,
Moran.
Thank you. For clarity for me, Mr. Marks, so are we using inserting the American Rescue Plan Act dollars into this here provision.
Mr. Marks.
Madam Chair and Representative Moran, there are many pots of money within the American Rescue Plan. The Garofalo amendment here would deal with the capital projects portion of 178.855 million
Within.
that is projected to come to the state. The resolution currently sets the limit of 0 for the state recovery fund portion of the American Rescue Plan. So there are two separate pots of money. Again, we don't have guidance on either one of them, so we don't know exactly what they can be spent for. The name of the one in the Garofalo amendment is the capital projects or coronavirus capital projects fund portion. So presumably it is capital projects, but they are two separate pots of money.
Madam,
Chair Moran.
thank you, Mr. Marks. So members, what I know is that this additional language really drastically changes our budget priority. One, we know that currently we don't know what the federal guidance are around these the American Rescue Plan Act. We are not utilizing those dollars within our budget at this current time because one, they're not available. And so for that reason, I would ask for a no vote on this amendment.
Representative Hertaus.
Well, thank you, Madam Chair and Representative Moran, Chair Moran. I would speak in favor of this amendment. We just identified that House File 1064, 107 million is included in this, and we have a contingent line item for it. And this separate pot of money, as Mr. Marks has pointed out, is clearly intended to be capital investments, which would be under the jurisdiction and advice of the Capital Investment Committee. So I think this is a good thing to include in this, in that it doesn't interact with your bill in terms of displacing any money, and it's not any different than the 107 million that is earmarked or being contingent as well. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Representative Liebling.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I'd like to ask Mr. Marks kind of the reverse question to Chair Moran's question. So sort of the implication I got from Representative Garofalo's question is that in order to have any say over this money, that we somehow need to include it in the budget resolution. What I'd like to know is this, if we don't include it in the budget resolution, does this mean that we're just giving up our opportunity to have any say over this money? Or would this normally be, well, there's no normal here since we don't normally have this kind of money, but if we don't do this today, will we can do this later on by legislation, or there can be an agreement at the end of session and so on. Am I right about that? Or do we have to include this in our budget resolution in order to have any control over the money?
Mr. Marks.
Madam Chair and Representative Liebling, the budget resolution is a separate implement from whether the legislature has any say over the money or not. By putting it in the resolution, it designates which committee would handle it if the legislature is dealing with it. By not putting it in the resolution, it simply does not limit which committee or how much is spent. So it's the legislature can still have say over it. If it's not in the resolution, it would be like many other funds or accounts that are not in the resolution that committees appropriate from or deal with. Anyway, for example, the Environment Committee dealing with the Game and Fish Fund or something like that. The Game and Fish Fund's not in the resolution. So it's, I don't think there's necessarily a linkage between having it in the resolution and whether the House or the legislature has any say over it.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Mr. Marks.
And Mr. Marks, just to follow up on that, is it possible to come back and amend the budget resolution in the future once we have a better sense of the funds?
Madam Chair, yes. The budget resolution there's a history of amending the budget resolution from now until amendments might be needed.
Great, thank you, Mr. Marks. So Representative Hertas, and we'll come back to you, Chair Moran, for the last word.
All right.
Or before the last word of the last word from Representative Garofalo.
Okay.
So Representative Hertas.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, if we don't put it in there now, the budget resolution and any bill that goes forward with regard to the budget would eventually be signed by the governor as an agreement, as part of a global deal. Don't put it in there. What incentive is there for the governor to sign a future bill saying we have jurisdiction over the money? Mr. Marks.
Mr. Marks.
Mr. Chair, I think, or Madam Chair and Representative Hertas, it's important to remember what the budget resolution is. It's a document basically stating the intent of the House at this point in time. Whether it's in the budget resolution or not doesn't indicate whether committees can take action on things. Or, if it is in the budget resolution, it limits what committees can do. If it's not in the budget resolution, then it's not limited by the budget resolution.
Representative Hertas.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, I guess potatoes and potatoes, it looks to me like we have an opportunity as members of the House to have leverage on this issue. And I think that would be good insurance for us as House members to do, since appropriations are supposed to originate from the House. My concern would be that this would fall into the lap of the governor and he having his own capital investment bill rather than members of the House having input on this. So I'll end my comments there.
Thank you. Chair Moran.
Thank you.
So, Madam Chair, to clarify, we do not have the ability to come back and amend this budget resolution later if federal guidance assure us that we can make changes without violating the law first. So these amendments are premature until we have more information, more guidance from the federal government. So that's why I am opposing it at this time. And yes, we also need to talk with Chair Lee, who is the chair of Capital Investment, who is not on this committee and hasn't had the opportunity to review this amendment. So for that reason, we just, I will say no to this amendment at this time.
Chair Moran, and I think just to clarify, I think you had said this, but maybe just said it a little different, that Mr. Marks did say we can come back and amend it. And I think that was the intent of your comment there, right?
Right.
Okay, great.
We do have the ability to come back to amend this budget. Yes, I'm sorry. Yep.
Yes, I thought that's what you meant, Chair Moran.
Yes.
All right, great. Representative Garofalo to the A2.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And members of the DFL, just to clarify here, if you don't accept this amendment, every finance committee of the legislature will have the ability to spend money from the Capital Projects Fund. Your resolution does not cap that. You are silent on that motion, and as we've talked about here today, the capital projects portion of the fund is different than the lines that you see on lines 2.10 through 2.112. So the expenditure limits you have in place there, you are allowing your finance chairs to set up individual capital projects in those other areas. Now, if that's your intent, then you should oppose this. If that's not your intent, then you should at least at a minimum be aware of this issue with your budget resolution and how you're constructing it. So I would ask for members' support.
Thank you, Representative Garofalo. The clerk will take the roll on the A2 amendment.
Chair Moran.
No.
Moran, no. Vice Chair Olson.
No.
Olson, no. Representative Garofalo.
Yes.
Garofalo, aye. Representative Albright.
Aye.
Albright, aye. Representative Becker-Finn.
No.
Becker-Finn, no. Representative Bernardi,
No.
Bernardi, no. Representative Eklund,
No.
Eklund, no. Representative Hansen,
No.
Hansen, no. Representative Hassan, excused. Representative Hertas,
Hertas, aye.
Hertas, aye. Representative Hornstein,
No.
Hornstein, no. Representative Johnson,
Aye.
Johnson, aye. Representative Kresha,
Kresha, aye.
Kresha, aye. Representative Liebling,
No.
Liebling, no. Representative Lilly,
Lily, no.
Lilly, no. Representative Mariani,
Mariani, no.
Mariani, no. Representative Marquardt,
Marquardt, no.
Marquardt, no. Representative Miller,
Miller, aye.
Miller, aye. Representative Nash,
Nash, aye.
Nash, aye. Representative Nelson,
Nelson, no.
Nelson, no. Representative Noor,
No.
Noor, no. Representative O'Neill,
O'Neill, aye.
O'Neill, aye. Representative Pulowski,
Pulowski, no.
Pulowski, no. Representative Petersburg,
Aye.
Petersburg, aye. Representative Pinto,
No.
Pinto, no. Representative Schumacher,
Aye.
Schumacher, aye. Representative Schultz,
No.
Schultz, no. Representative Scott,
Aye.
Scott, aye. Representative Sundin,
No.
Sundin, no. 11 ayes, 17 nays.
A vote of 11 ayes and 17 nays, the A2 is not adopted. Representative Garofalo to the A1 amendment.
Madam Chair, I'll move the A01 amendment to the budget resolution.
Great. The A1 is now in front of us. To your amendment, Representative Garofalo.
Madam Speaker, Madam Chair, and members, this is on page 2 of your resolution, line 12. Currently, the federal program is limited in this budget resolution to a target of 0. So what that means is the individual finance chairs are prohibited under House rules from passing any money from these funds. So we discussed earlier in the committee how there are conditional appropriations that the legislature has the ability to pass. That this is federal money that, if it is determined to be appropriate with federal law and the guidance from the Treasury Department, it gives us the ability to establish a position to say this is how we want to spend this money. It's conditional. And so right now, your budget resolution codifies in-house rules that your individual finance chairs will be prohibited from even considering passing one of these bills. I guess you could have a hearing on it, but you would not be able to take action on it because it would violate the budget resolution. Now, the amendment that I'm offering here on to establish a cap there, and this is the allocation. The cap I put in place is the allocation. I don't designate specific committees of how much they get. It just makes it so that the DFL finance chairs and the DFL finance committees will at least have the ability, if they choose to pass their priorities as conditional appropriations. The current resolution, as it is designed, it doesn't handcuff me or the Republican minority in any way. What it does is it handcuffs the finance chairs. This limits each and every finance chair from being able to even establish a position in priority. Now, our colleagues in the other chamber, they won't have that guidance. They're not going to have Senate rules that prohibit them from establishing what their priorities are. Likewise, the governor, after the legislative session, will have no requirement. So what this amendment does is it empowers the DFL finance chairs of these committees, who still have majorities of your committees, to at least have the option of making a decision, of at least proposing a bill. To be candid, I would tell you that I was a finance chair at one point, and if a budget resolution came forward like this, I wouldn't have accepted the practice that I was going to give up any jurisdiction or authority over my committee, and that I was going to bump that up to the leadership tribunal. I wouldn't have accepted that, and I don't think as finance chairs you should either. So I'm going to ask for a roll call on this version of the amendment, and I'm sure we're going to hear from Chair Moran, as we should. But I would like to hear from the DFL finance chairs in this committee if this is something that is worth fighting for or continuing conversations later on in session. Then I'm willing to be helpful in the ways that I can. If, on the other hand, as a finance chair, you are okay with ceding this authority to other people, just please tell me so I don't waste my time trying to advocate on your behalf. But again, under the budget resolution as it is written right now, the budget resolution will prohibit each and every DFL finance chair from passing any bill for conditional appropriations or approval out of that $2.7 billion of resources available. So, Madam Chair and members, I would ask for your support.
Discussion to the A1, Representative Pulowski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My question goes to either Mr. Marks or if Mr. McCormick is with us. Could there be another way to interpret this? That under Rule 4.03, this in essence would be $2.7 billion of unencumbered money that anyone could use for an amendment? I realize that the discussion has been so far the chairs, but if I could have Mr. Marks or Mr. McCormick tell me that if this amendment is adopted, then anyone could offer an amendment using this money on any finance bill under Rule 4.03?
Mr. Marks.
Madam Chair and Representative Pulowski, this would make the total amount available for amendments by the chairs or anyone else.
All right, that's what I needed.
Representative Pulowski, yeah.
Madam Chair, thank you. That's what I needed to hear. This certainly would be an interesting floor session, not to mention a series of committee meetings. And maybe it's the way the membership wants to go, but it would be a whole new legislative process. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Hansen.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I will go back to the question I asked the commissioner. Does this prohibit the legislature from appropriating money in FY21? So if the federal dollars are achieved this year and we have the fiscal year that ends on June 30th, are we able to appropriate dollars in the remaining months of this year?
Mr. Marks.
Madam Chair and Representative Hansen, the way it is structured does not prohibit spending in fiscal 21, but the interpretation with the budget resolution has always been that spending in the current biennium in fiscal 21 reduces the funding available in the next biennium in 22 and 23. So an argument can be made that if $100 million is spent in fiscal 21, that means that less is available in 22, 23. So there is a way to make an argument that that kind of spending is prohibited. I think there's room for interpretation there, probably.
Representative Hansen.
Thank you, Mr. Marks. But if it's one-time money that's been received and it's not in the tails, if we appropriated it in FY21 and in an appropriation said that it was extended into FY22, if it was not encumbered by June 30th, you would still be able to have an appropriation. Would that be correct?
Mr. Marks.
Madam Chair and Representative Hansen, I think possibly, but we're venturing into kind of we've not dealt with this size of money at this point in time before. I think I think we need to have some discussions about the implications of that.
Representative Hansen, anything further?
That's why I asked the question.
Representative Liebling.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, I couldn't resist I have to thank Representative Garoppolo for his deep concern for the DFL fiscal chairs and how we're going to be able to manage. And I just wanted to kind of go back to what Mr. Marks said before on the other amendment and just Mr. Marks, if I'm correct interpreting what you said, that if we don't mention these other funds, and of course we don't know what's available to us. That's part of the problem that we all have. But if it's not mentioned, I don't think that under your answer before that Representative Garofalo is correct, that in fact, if there's no target for this money under the budget resolution, until there is such a target set for this money, there's nothing prohibiting chairs from putting this money in their bills. Am I right about that, or did I misunderstand your previous answer?
Mr. Marks.
Madam Chair and Representative Liebling, in this particular case, because the current language in the budget resolution on lines 2.10 through 2.12 limits this fund to zero, that would be out of order under the resolution as proposed. What we talked about before, Representative Garofalo had proposed a different fund that is not in the resolution. So the circumstances are a little different.
Representative Liebling.
Thank you. Mr. Marks, thanks for clarifying that. Right. There is, however, when we learn about how this money can be used and decisions are made, or there are proposals put forward about how to use the money, we as fiscal chairs and members of our committees are still potentially in the position then of coming back to ask for an amendment to the budget resolution, or there could be a decision to amend the budget resolution at a later time, right, when we know what's available to us and decisions have been made about where that should be allocated, that we could then come back and include that and appropriate that money. Is that accurate?
Mr. Marks.
Madam Chair and Representative Liebling, the budget resolution could be amended at a later time to yes, as you suggested.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you. Chair Moran.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I want us to look at line 2.12, which is in this amendment is this deleting line, Chair, and deleting zero and then inserting a $2,557,400,000. And so I just want to make this clear that in this budget resolution, we are not spending any federal aid because we don't know. We don't know yet what that looks like. We don't have any guidance. So we are not authorizing like any spending from these funds until we are sure we understand the federal guidance. We do not want to appropriate any dollars that are not fully backed by existing state funds. Our budget proposal is with existing state fund. So, for example, the summer learning bills that we just passed off the floor include language that allow for replacing and the appropriated dollars with future federal funding, right? That is deemed eligible. That type of conditional replacement is not prohibited by this resolution. But for now, we need to back any spending with dollars already in the general fund. That is our plan A. That is the plan. And for that reason, I ask members to vote no on this amendment.
Thank you, Chair Moran. Representative O'Neill.
Madam Chair, I just have a quick clarification question. What if we never revisit this budget resolution and it stays at zero and the money stays somewhere? Then can the governor just appropriate all of that money? If we don't ever revisit this, then does that go back to the governor for him to appropriate all the money, just like he did the over $2 billion that came in prior, or more than that, maybe it's $4 billion now?
Mr. Marks.
Madam Chair and Representative O'Neill, the budget resolution applies while bills are moving through the House. It does not apply to bills that come back from conference committee or bills that where the Senate has amended and the House is moving to concur in Senate amendments. So if the budget resolution was never amended, it would apply all the way through as bills move through the House process, getting their second and third reading the first time around, but it does not apply later on in the session.
Representative O'Neill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So, but just very clearly, the federal money, so the third COVID package that's coming to Minnesota, Actually, it's closer to 8 billion in total. But the amount that we're talking about, if this budget resolution stays at zero and it never changes from zero, does that mean the legislature will not be able to appropriate that money? Is that what you're saying? That we would be able to, even if we never passed anything besides leaving it as zero?
Mr. Marks.
Madam Chair and Representative O'Neill, it means a bill moving through the House process could not do it if the resolution was not amended. It doesn't mean that a bill that the House couldn't agree with a bill that was amended by the Senate or was amended in conference committee.
Okay. Representative O'Neill.
Thank you. So if the Senate, if we did not go to conference committee, so if we didn't accept a bill that came over from the Senate and went to conference committee, and that the money was never encumbered by the legislature, then the way it is now, would the governor continue to be able to spend that money as he has with the many billions of dollars that have already come into the state? If we don't take it up, we don't appropriate it, then will the governor just continue to spend it like he has in the past? If it doesn't come over from the Senate, if we don't go through the conference committee report?
Mr. Marks.
Madam Chair and Representative O'Neill, I think the budget resolution is a tool as bills move through the House process. I think your question's a bit bigger one and maybe beyond that, in that the governor has already submitted now proposals for spending portions of the federal money, or large portions of the federal money, perhaps all of it. Those are basically, they work through the process that's in Minnesota Statutes 3.3005, which utilizes a statutory appropriation for the governor to spend federal money with legislative advice from the Legislative Advisory Commission. If the process is, as Ms. Rattan referred to, a 20-day process, there's a 20-day process for review that started last Friday. If any member of the Legislative Advisory Commission, and the Legislative Advisory Commission in the House is the Speaker, the Ways and Means Chair, and the Chair of whichever Finance Committee the account is in, and then similar Senate members, if any member requests further review, that puts the proposal on hold until the request is withdrawn or until the regular session ends. So that process that's out there is the budget resolution is a relatively minor part of that. If the legislative session adjourns, the regular session, and not a special session, if the regular session adjourns on May 17th, and there is no agreement on how to spend the federal money, the governor basically takes control of the process at that point.
Anything further, Representative O'Neill?
Thank you, Madam Chair. That is the point. If we don't take control, if we don't appropriate this money, we just give it all back to the governor, just like he's been doing, and he can continue appropriating money as if he was the legislature. That is the point.
Representative Garofalo, final comments on the A1.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members. First of all, Representative Liebling, you and I are litter mates. We came into the legislature at the same time. I could not pick up via Zoom whether you were being facetious or serious about your comment about me helping out finance chairs. If you meant it to be sarcastic, then I would respectfully tell you you're not paying attention. Finance chairs come and go, party control comes and goes. But what the budget resolution does right now as it's written is it prohibits you from passing any legislation that appropriates that federal money. Now, what the individual target, Representative Pulowski rightfully pointed out that, you know, you're going to need to take this money and put it into individual committees, right? You can't just have everyone fighting over the same $2.5 billion. The downside to this would have been that if I offered a budget resolution assigning individual committees additional federal monies, then it would have been criticized as not outlining the DFL priorities. So I lose either way. But Representative Liebling and my colleagues, I hope you recognize that what is happening here. By having this target be at zero, you are prohibiting not only your finance chairs and your committees, you're committing the entire House of Representatives to not having a position on this $2.5 billion. That is the effect of this. Now, either that's by accident or it's being done by design as a mechanism to consolidate power, whether it's legislative leadership or whether it's the governor. I don't know. I don't have visibility into that. But I would hope that I expect the DFL will vote down this resolution today. Representative Liebling, Representative Hansen, the other finance chairs, Representative Marquardt, Representative Davney, I would hope that you guys are having conversations with your legislative leadership and with Chair Moran about having individual targets for your committees. Requiring the rules of the House to prohibit that there be no inaction on something like this, that's not a good idea. So I would ask for members' support. Thank you.
A roll call having been requested on the A1, the clerk will take the roll.
Chair Moran?
No.
Moran, no. Vice Chair Olson?
No.
Olson, no. Representative Garofalo?
Yes.
Garofalo, aye. Representative Albright?
Aye.
Albright, aye. Representative Becker-Finn?
No.
Becker-Finn, no. Representative Bernardi?
No.
Bernardi, no. Representative Eklund?
No.
Eklund, no. Representative Hansen?
No.
Hansen, no. Representative Hassan, excused. Representative Hertas? Representative Hertas?
Hertas, aye.
Hertas, aye. Representative Hornstein?
No.
Hornstein, no. Representative Johnson?
Aye.
Johnson, aye. Representative Kresha?
Grisha, aye.
Kresha, aye. Representative Liebling?
No.
Liebling, no. Representative Lilly?
Lily, no.
Lilly, no. Representative Mariani?
Mariani, no.
Mariani, no. Representative Marquardt?
Respect your deadlines on that. She'll put it on. It's great.
Representative Marquardt?
One of the reasons that our schedule.
Marquardt, no.
Marquardt, no. Representative Miller?
Miller, aye.
Miller, aye. Representative Nash?
Nash, aye.
Nash, aye. Representative Nelson?
Nelson, no.
Nelson, no. Representative Noor?
No.
Noor, no. Representative O'Neill?
O'Neill, aye.
O'Neill, aye. Representative Pulowski?
Pulowski, no.
Pulowski, no. Representative Petersburg?
Aye.
Petersburg, aye. Representative Pinto?
No.
Pinto, no. Representative Schumacher?
Schumacher, aye.
Schumacher, aye. Representative Schultz?
No.
Schultz, no. Representative Scott?
Aye.
Scott, aye. Representative Sundin?
No.
Sundin, no. 11 ayes, 17 nays.
On 11 ayes and 17 nays, the amendment is not adopted. So we will go now. We had some discussion already to the overall budget resolution. We took care of the amendments and we're coming up on time here. So we'll go to Representative Garofalo for closing comments and then Chair Moran before we vote. So Representative Garofalo.
Madam Chair, members, I would encourage a no vote. Thank you.
Chair Moran.
Members, this is, well, I just want to thank you, Madam Chair and members. I appreciate the discussion tonight. The budget resolution will help our kids catch up and keep up in our schools. It will allow us to maintain a robust safety net for working families, rebuilding their livelihoods as the pandemic failed. This is a good budget. It is a responsible budget. I ask members to please vote yes.
All right, seeing there no further discussion, Chair Moran renews her motion that the budget resolution titled Bud Res 01 be adopted. Ms. Sparkman, please take the roll.
Chair Moran?
Aye.
Moran, aye. Vice Chair Olson?
Aye.
Olson, aye. Representative Garofalo?
No.
Garofalo, no. Representative Albright?
No.
Albright, no. Representative Becker-Finn?
Aye.
Becker-Finn, aye. Representative Bernardi?
Aye.
Bernardi, aye. Representative Eklund?
Aye.
Eklund, aye. Representative Hansen?
Aye.
Hansen, aye. Representative Hassan, excused. Representative Hertaus.
Hertaus, aye.
Hertaus, aye. Representative Hornstein.
Aye.
Hornstein, aye. Representative Johnson.
No.
Johnson, no. Representative Kresha.
Kresha, no.
Kresha, no. Representative Liebling.
Aye.
Liebling, aye. Representative Lilly.
Lily, aye.
Lilly, aye. Representative Mariani.
Mariani, aye.
Mariani, aye. Representative Marquardt.
Harcourt, aye.
Marquardt, aye. Representative Miller.
Miller, no.
Miller, no. Representative Nash.
Nash, no.
Nash, no. Representative Nelson.
Nelson, aye.
Nelson, aye. Representative Noor.
Noor, aye.
Noor, aye. Representative O'Neill.
O'Neill, no.
O'Neill, no. Representative Pulowski.
Pulaski, aye.
Pulowski, aye. Representative Petersburg.
No.
Petersburg, no. Representative Pinto.
Aye.
Pinto, aye. Representative Schumacher.
Schumacher, no.
Schumacher, no. Representative Schultz.
Aye.
Schultz, aye. Representative Scott.
No.
Scott, no. Representative Sundin.
Hertaus
Aye.
changes from aye to no.
Representative Sundin, aye. Representative Hertaus changes from aye to no. That's 17 ayes and 11 nays.
There being 17 ayes and what was the nays, Laura?
11.
11 nays. The motion prevails and the budget resolution is adopted.